Good afternoon. I'm Carlos Fernandez, Policy Analyst at the Vegas Chamber. I'd like to thank you all for tuning into a conversation with U.S. Senator Jacky Rosen, U.S. Small Business Administration Director Joe Amato, and Deputy District Director Sewald Ramos, along with the Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mary Beth Sewald. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to explain some features of this call. In order to preserve time and high sound quality, we're muting everyone besides our presenters to make it easier for everyone to hear. If you'd like to ask a question, there are a few ways you could do so. If you're joining this call on the web or through the mobile app, you can ask a question by using the chat feature on the interface. We'll ask a question on your behalf. You can also ask a question by clicking the hand raise button on the interface. We'll call your name and unmute your line so everyone can ask a question. Once you have asked your question, we'll mute your line so everyone on the call can hear the answer. And to preserve time, we ask that you please keep questions brief, taking all questions at the end of the call. Now, please welcome Las Vegas Chamber President and CEO, Mary Beth Sewald.
Thank you, Carlos, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's teleconference with United States Senator Jacky Rosen. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. We also appreciate having SBA District Director Joe Amato, even though I apologize we can't see him right now. We're having some technical difficulties, but Joe, I assure you, is on the line along with Sewald Ramos, and we also have Chamber Chairman Mr. Tom Burns. Before we introduce everyone else today formally, we just want to say that we hope you find today's webinar that will provide you with a lot of guidance and on what the federal programs are, what resources are available to you. I want you all to know that our top priority at the Vegas Chamber has definitely been to make sure that we are meeting the needs of chamber businesses, whether they're members or not. We are taking that mantra seriously, and we want you to know that we're here for you. I want to thank everybody who's been on these calls. We've had a lot of them. We want to thank you for your engagement and for your feedback. One message we got that I want to share with you was from Kathy from the Hydrant Club. She said, "My business will survive this, and when the clouds clear and I can rise again, it will be knowing that the Vegas Chamber gives me that availability." So Kathy, if you're on the line, we want to say thank you so much, because words like that give us the encouragement and the motivation that we need to keep providing all this great programming. Before we start today, I want to remind everybody, please mark your calendars for tomorrow, April 17th at 8:30 a.m., where we will host a virtual version, easy for me to say, of Eggs and Issues with U.S. Congresswoman Susie Lee. So you'll have to bring your own eggs, but we'll sure bring the issues. So now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Vegas Chamber. He's also the president of Cragen & Pike. Please welcome Mr. Tom Burns. Tom, thanks for being here.
You bet, Mary Beth. Thank you so much. You know, looking after businesses and our employees, our neighbors, is what the Chamber does so well. And Cragen & Pike has been a member of the Chamber since it was founded in 1911. And I can tell you that being a part of the Chamber is more important than ever. If you're a Chamber member or not, you should know that the Chamber staff is working extra hours. They're diligent, they have your back, they're taking good care of you, and you should be very proud of what they're doing. We are fortunate today to have here Senator Jacky Rosen, who's instrumental in helping us pass the CARES Act, recently passed in Congress. She's been a strong advocate of STEM in Nevada, and today she's going to share with us her thoughts on the CARES Act. She's also been an advocate for armed forces, as well as having people that have access to health care. Senator, on behalf of Nevadans, I'd like to thank you for your leadership in the passage of the CARES Act. Our state is fortunate to have a strong leader just like you, and we're glad you're here today. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce Mr. Joe Amato, the U.S. Small Business Administration's District Director. Joe has been a true advocate and champion for small business here in Southern Nevada, and has spent his time talking to Chamber members and helping them navigate the new acts that have come through Congress. Senator Rosen, let's open it up. Can you share with us some thoughts about the CARES Act?
Well, I sure will, but first of all, I want to thank Mary Beth. You always are so gracious, organizing, putting everything together so I can communicate with all of your members. Tom, I know the due diligence, the hard work you're doing, all of your members, not just members of the Chamber, they're Nevadans, they're members of our community. They love their state, they love their neighbors, and we're going to get all through this. So I want to thank you for having that and having me here today. And this time it is uncertain, and I do know we're going to get through this together. I want to tell you I'm the only member of the federal delegation to serve on the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee, or the small business committees in Congress. And so I'm committed to supporting small business throughout the state. Over 99% of business in Nevada, small business. My team, we're working around the clock to get all the information to everyone as accurately as possible. rosen.senate.gov. We've got a whole COVID page with 10 to 20 links on there, frequently asked questions. We have a special small business portal on there as well. I've been working on that with Joe. We're going to introduce Joe in a second to be sure that that's up to date so our businesses can have all the information that we need. And so I do want to spend a moment to introduce Joe, because I brought him as a special guest, because I can talk about the CARES Act, I can talk about our intention, but Joe is boots on the ground, being sure that everything is implemented correctly. So between my team and Joe and his teams, we will get you all of the answers. So, you know, the CARES Act, the intention of the CARES Act, and the two prior acts before that were to be, number one, the first package was to give direct help right away to our healthcare, frontline healthcare workers. This virus hit us hard and fast. It is fatal in many cases, and we have to have robust support to get that done. Second package, trying to work to help families that suddenly were struggling. The third package, even more robust, trying to work more therapeutics, more hospitals, help for unemployment insurance, and help that we need for our small business community. And so over $2 trillion, we're going to be adding more money to that. We know there have been places that have been left out. We've put in $10 billion for SBA emergency grants, $17 billion to cover 6 months of payments. We've over almost $350 billion in loans to small business and nonprofits for maintaining their existing workforce. We're going to continue to build on that, and I'll take the next question, I guess. How's that? I'll turn it to Joe. Joe, there you go. See, I didn't see you. There you are.
I know, I'm so sorry. I'm like talking to you from a closet. Thank you very much, Senator Rosen. And I want to applaud you and your staff for all that you've done in not only supporting what we're doing here in the state of Nevada, but being an amazing ally in what we're trying to accomplish for the small business in Nevada. And also Mary Beth and Tom, thank you so much. This is not our first rodeo doing these televised things today, and for some reason I'm using my SBA laptop and my camera does not want to work even though the light's on. What we're trying to do, for the past 3+ weeks is try to get as much money out there into the Nevada business population as possible. And through Idle Advance and the PPP program, where we have control, we are moving as swiftly and quickly as we can to get money out there. This was basically the first and best week we had, where we were watching individual companies receive their first idle approvals and starting to get their first deposits into their accounts, which was amazing. And in the last 2 weeks working with the lenders, I will tell you, our super regional lenders, our regional lenders, our community bank lenders, our credit unions, they're just doing a great job of trying to get money into the hands for the Paycheck Protection Program and try to get people off of unemployment as quickly as possible. So there's been a lot of ongoing changes or upgrades or improvements to these programs as they move forward. The lenders are getting more acclimated to what they've been instructed to do as far as getting the Paycheck Protection Program money out there. And we're spending a lot of time. This is my 75th webinar and/or town hall and/or conference call, where I'm basically trying to get the right information out there to the individual businesses. I will tell you, one of the things that I am most hopeful about is that the light is sort of at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train. We're starting to see businesses that are thinking about recovery as opposed to just thinking about surviving. And although there is a lot of companies out there that are still struggling and struggling badly and are still waiting for money, that is part of the process in just the sheer number of applications that we've had to basically take on. And I'm pretty sure you guys knew some of the first numbers that came out 2 days ago in the PPP program. Over 4,200 businesses received over $1.2 billion in approvals, not necessarily all funded yet. And just in the last 3 days, I've talked to one company that's bringing back 419 employees, another one's bringing back 318 employees, and several companies bring between 150 to 200 employees back off of unemployment. And that's what these programs are for. So that's my initial pitch from the closet here, and I'm here to help Senator Rosen answer any questions that may be directed toward me. And thank you so much again, Mary Beth and Tom, for putting this together.
Well, you're welcome, Joe, and thank you for always being there for us to answer these questions. The questions are pouring in, so if it's all okay with you, we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. With the news this afternoon, they said of all the money has been used, and I have applied for PPP and the EIDL. How do you suggest we proceed to keep our businesses open with no apparent help in sight?
Well, I can tell you that today I was on 2 calls. The first call I was on at 8 o'clock this morning was with the White House, where I was appointed to be on the White House Recovery Task Force, thinking about what we're going to do for businesses, our healthcare, our economy going forward. I was one of, I think there's 12 or 13 Democratic senators on that task force. I am proud to be one. Nevada has a voice now with the White House in making these decisions. The second call we were on was with our Democratic caucus as we're trying to negotiate, I guess if you want to call it COVID 3.5 or 4.0, the subsequent bills, understanding that PPP is about to or is running out of money, and we're running out of funds in some areas, what restrictions need to be modified or guardrails changed or removed, especially when people start paying back their payments even perhaps, because we don't know when recovery is going to start, when businesses will open. So we're realizing all that now. We're working on all of that now. We're hoping to get that out there as quickly as possible. So regardless of what you see on the news, we are working behind the scenes, all of our teams in Washington, of course, all through email and conference call like this, trying to be sure that there isn't much of an interruption due to lack of funding.
And if I can add to that, Senator, basically what we've been instructing on the PPP side and what the lenders have been informing us is that everyone who has filed an application, if they haven't been funded yet, they are in an active queue. In most cases, they have already received their E-Tran certification that the loan has been basically put through the SBA system. And what these lenders are going to be waiting for is just basically, as Senator Rosen has said, for the next round of funding. So for those who have already applied, especially on the PPP side with the lenders, they are in a queue. They've been active in a queue. The fact that they haven't been funded yet, they should not hopefully dismay. Every day that they're waiting for money obviously is a tough situation, but the banks are trying to assure the people as soon as the funding basically gets reinstated that they're ready to basically keep on moving forward and getting deals closed. On the EIDL side, in the majority of situations where the funds have already been approved, that means the funds have already been sort of isolated from the previous funding that's already been in place, and that money should still flow out and then directly into your bank accounts. It's maybe some of the new applications that had gone in recently that weren't in the queue yet, in the active queue yet with the SBA, they may have to wait for the additional funding. But if you had received or been told that you were reviewed and approved already, that money should still be forthcoming from what we were told, because it's already isolated from the previous set of funds that were approved. So, I mean, we're tracking that and trying to stay on top of that as well, because it's obviously a concern to a lot of businesses that haven't received money in their accounts yet.
Okay, very good. I think this question might be for you, Joe. My bank told me not to call or apply with anyone else regarding my SBA loan application, and then a week later told me there was no money. What options are there for me to reapply with different banks?
Well, you know me in banks right now. I'm very, very careful what I say. Uh, and most of you know why. Well, let's put it this way. There are very interesting emails that have gone out from several different banks about they're inviting you to reapply with other banks. Right now, none of the banks that I can refer them to are taking applications because until the money comes up, they can't put anything into their systems. There are a few banks out there that that are taking applications and sort of holding them until the E-Trans system opens up again when new funding comes in. I would tell anybody who's having that problem, and I'm answering about 500 emails a day at this point, to contact me directly at joseph.amato@sba.gov. I know it's insane every time I do that, but that will give them the ability to get in contact with me, and I can point them in the direction. We have now 4 lenders in the state that basically are taking open applications from non-depository relationships, and I'm directing those to all 4 and let the 4 fight for them. I've also instructed people if your PPP is less than $2 million, there's also 2 national groups one is called Cabbage, K-A-B-B-A-G-E. The other one's called On Deck. They're in concert with a non-bank lender called Celtic Bank, and they're taking non-depository applications as well. So either contact me directly, contact Cabbage, contact On Deck, but most of them will be only taking your information right now or giving you access to the portal, but they're not basically submitting the applications until the new funding comes in.
Okay, very good. And I've gotten this question a couple of times. Do we know how many businesses in Nevada have been helped by the PPP program?
I think it was Senator Rosen. I think the number was like 4,206 as of 2 days ago.
A little over 4,000
Yes,
million
4,206. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Over
And 1.2 billion.
And the average loan is around 230,000, if I'm remembering correctly. So
yeah.
Out there, $1 billion has gone out, over $1 billion, 1.2 billion in the last few weeks. I think Joe, you've been working 24 hours a day, and we appreciate you.
Well, that's the lenders, but yeah, it was 4,206, and then 1.2 billion has gone out, and that was as of the 13th. So I would imagine we're probably close to $1.5 billion or more since, or pretty close to that in the 2 days that followed, until we basically evaporated funds late last night.
Okay, next question. This one comes from Shondell Newsom. For idle applicants were trying to access status on the SBA website. There is a status button or a link, but it doesn't work. When they call, the person can't give them any information. Do you know possibly how we can remedy that?
Tell Shondell Newsom his quotient of questions evaporated about 2 weeks ago. No, I love Shondell. I love you, Shondell. It is a technological issue that they're trying to correct ever since they brought in the new system, the quick application system. They are, just because of sheer volume, they're still dealing with ways to get status information out there. That status information has not been completed yet, or that portal that would provide status information. Again, what I've been trying to do when people contact me, I try to find out status with my position on certain deals. It's not easy even for me to get status. So again, I'm just asking people to be patient. This whole technological spaghetti bowl was put together in a matter of 4 or 5 days. And for the last 3 weeks, they've been trying to upgrade it on a consistent basis every day. So we're not there yet where you get instantaneous status, but I know it's something they're working on.
Okay, the next one is a statement to echo something that Senator Rosen has said. So Senator, this is for you. Senator Rosen has stated the SBA must reconsider its restrictions on small gaming companies. We are interdependent as a gaming industry, and this has to be changed. Thank you, Senator Rosen, for what you've done to champion this.
Oh, well, I want to tell you that I am going to be relentless on this one. So let me tell you what we've done so far. Initially, the intention of the CARES Act was not to restrict any business, not pick any winners or losers. Anyone who was affected by COVID, which is pretty much everybody in the United States, would have access to the funding they needed to keep afloat while we navigate through this crisis. Now, there have been some regulations from decades past. They've already removed regulations as it relates to farming and dairy and other things, but they had chosen to keep regulations from last century on gaming. I had a call with Secretary Treasury Mnuchin and Administrator of the SBA, Carranza, and spoke with them about this. And they changed it to if you made less than 50% of your revenue from gaming, they increased it from a third to 50%. That still isn't enough. I am fuming mad. Let me tell you, I'm on the phone tomorrow. We have a call with Vice President Pence. The question I'm going to be asking him is I want him to commit to removing any restriction that he cannot and we cannot pick winners and losers in this crisis. The other thing I'm doing on the task force is I will be elevating that this hurts every gaming company because the revenue of less than 50% still excludes the majority of our small gaming companies or gaming industry. So I'm going to work on that. And I'm also, when we go back, if they're not going to do that, I'm going to find a way to put a legislative fix in the next package that will prohibit them from excluding gaming or putting these barriers or guardrails as it relates to COVID relief. So let me tell you, they are going to be very sick of me. I plan to be relentless. And some of you who know me, I hopefully will get the job done.
Well, and Senator, thank you. On behalf of the C6s across the state of Nevada, the 501c6s, we appreciate your efforts on that front as well, because there are so many 501c6s, not to mention the chambers across the state who are working so hard to serve our businesses. And so we're in a similar boat. So thank you for that. All right, the next question. If I need to borrow from my line of credit to make payroll, can I reimburse the line of credit when we receive the EIDL or PPP with funds from those loans? Also, we submitted early and have heard nothing on both of these loans. Should we have received any correspondence, or do we need to resubmit?
Okay, well, obviously the EIDL program is through the SBA directly, and I think just pure volume has elongated the process that we thought was going to be very, very more time efficient in getting money out. It's definitely been elongated quite a bit because of just volume. On the PPP program, I mean, the relationship is with the lender still. I mean, there's a guarantee that comes from the SBA, and the lender has a relationship in basically how the SBA is managing or outlining the process through CFR. But at the end of the day, you basically should be applying, whether it's directly or to our online portal or whatever with your lender, and your interaction has to be specifically with the lender. Now, as far as the question, no part of the PPP funding should be, unless it is carved out specifically to repay or pay back debt, it has to be debt that occurred before 2/15/20. So if you forwarded money from your own accounts or so on and so forth to cover payroll during an interim period before you close the funding of the PPP loan, you cannot use PPP funds to reimburse yourself. That would probably violate the 100% forgiveness rule. You know, what a business owner, I tell so many business owners, what you do as a business owner, do as a business owner. I mean, you're going to have to make some decisions whether or not this money comes timely or not. You may have to do things that support your business in the short term. Obviously, the lenders have specific requirements of time frame of when they are supposed to be taking applications, responding to applications, and closing the funding of different approvals. But for all intents and purposes, it's you know, it's still a work in progress for them as well. They've been only doing it for a little bit more than 7 or 8 working days as well. So the big thing I tell everybody is to be patient, whether it's the lender side on PPP or whether it's the SBA side with EIDL. They're working tirelessly through the process of getting money out as fast as possible. You have a little bit more control, hopefully, with your lender because they're in our neighborhood. You know, they're the people you deal with every day, and hopefully they're being responsive to you. Again, if there's any issue where something seems out of sorts, I tell everyone, send me an email and I'll respond and try to be helpful as best I can. And my email again is joseph.amato@sba.gov. So.
Okay, I have another question. This one I think is for Senator Rosen. Insurance companies are denying claims for business interruption, claiming that there is no damage and it is due to the virus. But the truth is, our business was shut down by order of the governor, and all venues that we work with are closed. No one in my company had the virus, so it is not closed because of the virus. Senator Rosen, will you lobby or address to correct this issue in Congress?
I can tell you that myself and my colleagues on our conference calls that we're having multiple times a week, everyone across the country is having the same issue with business interruption insurance because we're all down in some shape or form because of the pandemic. And so going forward, we may have to have some legislative fix to this where you can't be excluded due to a pandemic. We might try to make things retroactive. It is an issue that we're lobbying on that we became aware of as all this came up so quickly. And businesses across America, they're all using many of the same insurers, and we're trying to compel them to take care of the companies in the same way that we're taking care of them. We're going to keep fighting for that.
Oh, very good. This question also is for you, Senator Rosen. Can Senator Rosen please describe a bit more about her new White House committee?
I can't hear you, Mary Beth.
Sorry about that. Let me repeat the question. Can Senator Rosen please describe a bit more about her new White House committee?
Oh, I sure will try. So yesterday we received a call from the White House inviting us to participate on a bicameral, bipartisan task force to think about how we recover going forward. So we recover in a few ways. We're going to be recovering hopefully with our health, our public health, our personal health, our public health and safety, and then of course our economy and our businesses. And so we were delighted to be asked. So Nevada has a voice, and this morning the president convened the first conference call, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, to welcome us all, tell us what he was thinking about, and then there were a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle talking about what they felt they needed in their states. I think the first thing that people were talking about is that to open the economy to feel safe, we have to have a few things. First of all, robust testing to test if you've had the disease or if you have immunity, those serum tests that people talk about. We have to push for funding and development of those therapeutics. So if God forbid you get sick, it will lessen your symptoms. You don't get so severe and all of those things as we move forward towards a vaccine. And so as we are able to do those things, then our economies will be able to open up on whatever fashion is right for each state. And so New Hampshire is maybe not like Nevada. A lot of small towns, they may open up their businesses in different ways. We have large hotels we may have to open up differently. I think we need to leave that to our governors and for us to work on. But what I'm hearing from everybody is the same thing. We all want the same thing, and that's how we're going to plan to get there. We should be having those meetings with the president once a week, is what he said this morning, and I believe we'll probably break into some working groups sooner than that, and we'll keep you posted.
Okay, great. Thank you, Senator. Next question. Are benefits such as healthcare, 401k, and payment of state and local taxes included in the $100,000 per employee cap for the PPP?
The only thing, anything that's normally in gross payroll would be included. Anything that's outside of gross payroll, like retirement plans or healthcare, group healthcare payments, are outside the $100,000, but also can be included. So the $100,000 cap for salary or gross salary would be all inclusive of your normal gross payroll items. your 401k, your health insurance benefits are over and above the 100,000. So basically, when you figure out your $100,000 calculation, you can add health benefits and you can add retirement plan payments as well if they're historically been paid in the base year that you use.
Okay, very good. Are there any other assistance programs for small business being discussed in Congress right now?
Well, I think, and I'm going to let Joe speak to this too, because he may have been part of some different conversations that I've been in. But like I said, we're on regular conference calls every day, sometimes multiple times a day, trying to figure out what we've done already in the 3 packages, making sure that they're implemented properly and that the money's going where it needs to, and then also trying to analyze where we need more help, more support, more funding, or the places that might have been neglected. Because we tried to get things out really quickly, because obviously the nature of the virus, we didn't have time to wait. So we're talking about a lot of things. I think it's different in some of the different states. For me, I'm going to take this fight for gaming top of mind. We also have our PPE, all of our first responders. We have our rural broadband. It's just broadband in general. There's a lot of things. The digital divide is laid open that we need to fix. It broke open our education, our telemedicine, our telehealth, a lot of ways that we can work and do those things. So for Nevada specific, those are very important. Gaming, telemedicine, telehealth, our hospitals here, our rural hospitals, really, really important. They're getting hit hard. It's hard for them to come to the urban areas. And that's what we're going to be fighting for. It. Be sure we're fully supported.
I will
good.
keep all legislative matters to Senator Rosen,
Okay,
like all
sounds
my
good.
conversations about big banks.
To follow up, is there any discussion about allowing businesses like taverns who receive a significant amount of their revenue from gaming to be eligible for future PPP funding?
Well, that is part of our fight. When I talk about the fight for gaming, it is fight for anyone who gets revenue from gaming. So whether you're a gas station, a tavern, a bar, a restaurant, gaming equipment manufacturer, slot machine repair, of course, or a casino, all of that, anyone who derives some part of their revenue from gaming, we do not want any exclusions because you get that revenue from gaming. So yes, that includes everyone. This fight I'm taking tomorrow with my question to the Vice President tomorrow morning on the task force, and legislatively, it will help everyone.
Okay, the next question comes from Super Kane, a proud chamber member. It's for Senator Rosen. Do any plans for the new funding include set-asides for community development financial institutions?
Oh, our CDFIs, they are really been the backbone. Joe can tell you the backbone, probably not just in Nevada, but across the country. We had like I said, we had a good call yesterday talking about recovery, how we're going to go forward, how our community banks, credit unions, those state banks and those lenders play such an important role in our communities because of the relationships that they have. And so we will be working with those. We will be funding those. We know that we need to put more money in stabilizing this economy. There was nothing wrong, at least in Nevada, we were growing, we were thriving, we were doing well here. So nothing was ultimately wrong. Of course, things can always be better. Don't get me wrong there, but we were doing fine. What happened to us was really virus related. So what we have to do is be sure, number one, that people are healthy, they're safe, our first responders, our healthcare workers, healthy and safe, work towards a cure. And while we're doing that, be able to be sure that our businesses can keep afloat in some way so that when we're ready to bounce back, even if it's in a gradual way as we wait for a vaccine, that we are ready to bounce back full steam, welcoming everyone back here. And that's what we have to do. That's the intention of the last 3 bills. It's our intention going forward. And whatever I have to do to make that happen, I'm going to do that.
Speaking of bouncing back, Senator Rosen, what are your thoughts on reopening the economy, not only in the entire country, but in Nevada?
Well, I think all of us are thinking about that. And you want to be smart. You want to be effective. I saw Mark Cuban on the news this morning. I thought he really explained it very well. He said if you wouldn't send your children or your grandparents into something, then you should be thinking about how you're going to do that. And so we're going to call the federal delegation. We speak with the governor 2-3 times a week. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about, as we work with his task force, what makes sense for Nevada. As we get more robust testing, as we find out if antibody testing is going to become more available, how do we know we're safe? Because we could open everything up, but you ultimately have to feel safe and not feel scared you're going to get the disease and not be able to get better. And so all these things have to happen together. We're going to talk with the governor tomorrow about what that might look like for us. I do think we're going to have a phased approach into it because the thing is that we don't want to lose anyone unnecessarily. And because one thing I know for sure in my life, and I know that everyone I know would probably say this, is the only thing you can't replace in life are the people that you love. So we have to be sure we're safe and healthy. And when we know that we can do that, we're going to find a way to reopen so we can maintain that. And I want to be able to do both. I think if we're smart, we'll try it. We'll be able to do it. Nothing's ever going to be probably as quickly as we want, but we do believe it's going to happen because we have a lot of wonderful people here knowing how to work together. Oh, Joe, your camera works. Welcome back. Welcome, Joe. And but we have a lot of people who are smart. They're caring. We have scientists, the medical community across the world working so hard every day in every aspect, collaborating, because nobody's immune to this. I don't care where you live, I don't know where you're from, around the globe. And so finding all of these things is the top of everybody's list. And we're just going to get through it together.
Well, Senator Rosen, we at the Chamber sure agree with you. We definitely don't want to put anyone in harm's way. At the same time, Chairman Burns has been hearing from a lot of Chamber members who are looking for assistance and some kind of structure as to how do we, when that time comes, certainly we don't want to rush it, but when that time comes, what do we do? And so, Tom, can you speak a little bit to what the Chamber has been doing to try to assist our businesses in that manner?
Absolutely. And Senator, we concur with you that we need to be responsible about when we open up and when we enter back into the economy. That being said, if there are things we can do ahead of time to be prepared, we would like to be able to do those things and do them thoughtfully. So we at the Chamber have been working hard with local governmental entities, with the county and the city, and discussing with some other local leaders on what we can do ahead of time to be prepared so that when we're ready to open up, that small business and medium business is ready to answer the call and be productive. And honestly, it's not even so much, it's nice that those small businesses make money, that's a helpful thing, but it puts people back to work, right? And it gives them a sense of community, a sense of belonging. A lot of people have a lot of their esteem and how they feel about themselves and their community wrapped up in that. And we just want to be ready to run when it's time to run.
Yeah, I'm tomorrow when we speak with the governor, there's been a lot of discussion how we work with public-private partnerships, at least with us in Washington. How do we leverage that? How do we give federal support, whether now it's full support for these loans with SBA or unemployment insurance? And then if businesses open gradually, how do we share that support? How do we move on these things going forward? So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow with the governor, trying to come up with a plan. He's got his wonderful task force working on that, on the mitigation and recovery, and seeing if we can put together a good paper on that. What works, what might work in rural Nevada will be different than, we're not here for rural Nevada, but different parts of Nevada may have a different way that they reopen than Las Vegas does.
We agree with
different
that,
sectors may open differently than the Las Vegas Strip. So I think he'll have to take it in kind of chunks like that and figure that out. But that's what we're going to be talking about, I think, tomorrow.
Well, thank you
Okay,
for your
very
support on that. We're very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This next question is not quite an SBA question. So Joe, even though you just got back with us, I'm going to ask you to hold another second. This question comes from Rita Vaswani, a question for Senator Rosen. Do you happen to know when are we getting the test kits for Nevada? And I know that Jim Murren's task force has been working on test kits, I believe. The question goes on, it would be a safe environment if we go back to work when everyone has been tested. It would be a safer environment if for us to go back to work when everyone has been tested. So she's asking, do we know where and when?
Well, hi, Rita. I can't see you, but I know you're out there. Thank you for all the great work that you do every day. I want to tell you that on the call with the president today, every Republican and every Democrat that spoke on that call, we were on for about an hour, the number one request, number one question, request, well, however you want to phrase that was all around testing. When can we ramp up? How do we ramp up? Because people need to know if they have it, if they're a carrier, if they're immune, and no one in any of the states felt that their states could open without this. Everybody is struggling to ramp up. We were trying to talk about how we use our universities. Some states, we have a few here that we can, some of it's laboratory power, how much lab space you have to actually do a particular number of tests. They just take so much time in a day. How do we, instead of just using big labs like Quest or LabCorp National labs, how do we use our medical schools, our universities, other labs that may be around in different ways in different states, and to help us reach capacity to be able to do robust testing. I still think that we have a few tests that are approved by the FDA. There's some new ones for the serum to see if you have the antibodies. I believe there's a saliva test that's either approved or about to be approved. That'll be very quick to see if you have the antibody that might protect you against getting it again. And so it's just happening very quickly. We are fighting to get our test kits. I hope the governor might shed some more light on that. We are still very short of test kits all around the country. Some of the other things that were brought up is manufacturing. If we get a vaccine, maybe we should start making hypodermic needles now to give 300 million people a vaccine. And so how do we even think proactively a year out for a vaccine, what you might need to provide that vaccine, which would be a syringe. So all these conversations are happening quickly, and unfortunately, we don't have enough. I'm hoping that that will change sooner than later.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The next question is for Joe. Would you mind, Joe, to mention those I think it was four institutions that you mentioned, lending institutions that you mentioned earlier, please?
I didn't mention them by name. So there is 4 lending institutions that basically, if someone reaches out to me directly, they asked me to not name them publicly, so I'm going to honor their request. But if somebody still needs to find a lender, is having difficulty finding a lender, or wants to change from the lender they've initially applied with, reach out to me at joseph.amato@sba.gov and let me know what's going on. But the 2 I will mention are the national lenders, is Kabbage, Kabbage, and On Deck. They're online portals. They're normally secondary or tertiary type lenders, but they've gotten very heavily involved in the PPP program and are funding up to $2 million per business. Even though it's a $10 million per business program, they're funding up to $2 million per business. So they are another option to go with.
Okay, very good. Very good. Next question. What is the best program to apply for as an independent contractor, such as a realtor or sole proprietor?
Either program works. We laugh about, in a sense, about independent contractors and sole proprietors with PPP because you're an employee of one, we call you. So basically you have to keep yourself employed for 8 weeks. And if you keep yourself employed for 8 weeks, you basically get your funding, your PPP funding forgiven. We're looking at the average basically funded amount for PPP for independent contractors and sole proprietorships are between like $20,000 to $40,000, which some of them for 8 weeks that could make a big difference. So so they're not very big loans, as Senator Rosen had said. The average loan size actually creeped up. It was at 238 2 days ago. I think it's at 279 as of and finally. So the loan amounts, when you really look at it, the majority of loan amounts are below 150,000. There was only like of the massive amount of loans that were written, not many of them are above 5 million. The majority of them are below 150,000. So for independent contractors, sole proprietors, the idle loan program works. And for the PPP program, you're either an employee unto yourself. That's when you fill out the program, you say, I am the only person that basically is this is for. And like I said, the average loan size is between $20,000 to $40,000.
Okay, very good. The next question is a little bit long, so bear with me on this one. I own a company structured as an LLC. I pay myself a small amount as a W-2 employee, but also receive 1099s for my company. Does this qualify me as a gig employee also? I have the forms in for the PPP W-2 segment already, but got an email today that the plan is suspended until further notice. If the answer is that I can also be a gig employee, what would the process be to not conflict with the W-2 application and to apply for that?
Well, you can't compound the applications. It's one application per person. So what I would do is go back to your lender and basically say, listen, I understand you asked for my W-2 income, but in essence, what the lender is supposed to give you the opportunity to do is to look at all compensation. So if you have sort of that combined income, which basically part of your income comes from what you pay yourself as W-2 and the other comes from distributions or 1099s or something to that effect, you basically can go back to your lender and say, listen, I need to adjust my number, and this is why. And you can include all those levels of compensation. I've seen it happen a couple of times, and most of the good lenders are going to say, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the lender wants to give you the maximum amount of money they can and still be eligible and still earn that. Don't do these deals unless you're going to be 100% forgiven. I mean, that's the whole idea. The banks, the SBA doesn't want you to end up with a saddle or with a loan that you have to pay back in 2 years. So I would say they should go back to the lender and say, listen, I'd like to, if I need to withdraw my application, that's fine. I'd like to resubmit and have the actual number. And that could be the difference between maybe getting 30 or 40,000 and getting 100,000, which could make a big difference. So I think,
Okay,
did I
very
answer
good.
all parts of that? I think I did, yeah.
Good, thank you. Appreciate that. This question is for Senator Rosen. Based on your experience, how long until more funding is added to the PPP, and how do we ensure that running out of money does not happen again?
Well, like I said, I was been on calls, multiple calls this week. We knew the PPP was about to run out, and in fact, believe it has. It is top of mind, not just for Nevada, but for every senator, every congressperson across the country, every governor. We're all worried about it. I know that our teams behind the scenes are negotiating to try to do through an agreement through unanimous consent that can be put on the floor of the House and the Senate as quickly as possible to get the funding back out there, because we know people are hurting. Our intent was to keep our economy at a level, to keep people being able to take care of themselves. It's the same reason the IRS checks are coming out. We wanted to help people right at that kitchen table be able to buy groceries, pay for their medicine. And so the PPP in that same way, keeping people employed on the paycheck, on the payroll, all of those things keeps us stable as we navigate through it. So I'm hoping it comes quickly. Like I said, I was just on a call right before this discussing that, and every day I'm in contact with Washington multiple times a day. I'm hoping it's going to come very quickly.
Okay, very good. Well, on behalf of the chamber, I just want to thank you all today for being with us, Senator Rosen, Joe Amato, and of course, Chairman Tom Burns. We really hope that everybody got a lot out of it. You were able to share your expertise, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate your service and all that you're doing in partnership with the Vegas Chamber. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And please, everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. Don't kiss or hug the ones you love right now. There'll be time for that, but stay safe, please.
Absolutely. And thank you for all you're doing, Senator Rosen. I mean, I think we would have a very difficult time, not only in the state of Nevada, but countrywide. Your leadership and your openness and your interaction with my office and with myself have been amazing. So, and you've definitely shown me a lot of what you're made of and who you are. And the same thing with Mary Beth. The same thing. We have great women leaders in this state of Nevada. I'm glad to have transplanted myself here from the East Coast, and look forward to being a long-term resident of Nevada after this is all said and done. So thank you so much for your leadership, both of you.
Joe, thanks so much for your willingness to reach out with our members today and your accessibility over the last 3 weeks. We know we've monopolized your time, and you've been very generous. And Senator, thank you so much for your leadership and your access to you today. You've been very generous. And Mary Beth, as always, your chamber's doing a job for its constituents and really showing what leadership is all about.
Well, thank you. Thank you all so much. We appreciate that. It truly is our passion to serve our members. So thank you all, and be safe, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.